Evening all. How are we? We are back. Well, I say we're all back. Holly is no longer isn't with us. I wouldn't say no longer with us. Sorry, can't get the words out. But she's no longer. She isn't with us tonight. I nearly did it again now, so I'm on a shocker today. But joining me tonight to discuss things Premier League and more is the Dwight York to my Andy Cole, the Jermaine Defoe to my Peter Crouch, the Dimitar Berbatov to my Robbie Keane. That is Nelson. Nelson, my man, how are you?
I'm good. It's good to be back. I actually like that little duo thing that you've done there. That's actually pretty good. I can't lie. Now, Holly, don't get jealous right now because, it is what it is. But yes, I'm happy to be back and talk things all football.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll get to some comments as well. My mum and dad showing love as always. So, yeah, thank you very much. Now, so we'll get straight into it. Obviously, this time, well, just about this time last week, we were preparing the best derby in the league. And unfortunately for us as Spurs fans, but more fortunately for you guys as goon as you've got the bragging rights once again this year in North London. What did you make of the game last week?
It was, I think, the first 15 to 20 minutes, I think it was a cagey affair. I think, both teams were trying to get settled into the game. And I think Arsenal created a lot more chances to begin the game. And then, out of nowhere against the run of play, you're 1-0 up. And I think a lot of the goals on that game, I think, it was quite fortunate goals in terms of wicket deflections and things that happened. I think on the basis of play, I believe that the result was fair. But when I mean that, I think we performed much better than you, especially once we had gotten the equalizer, for the rest of the game. I just don't think you guys, it was unfortunate because I'm always up for a derby and it didn't seem like the boys were up for it. Your boys were up for it. I'm not sure why, not sure if Ange, what he said at halftime. I'm really not too sure, but considering your performances away from home against some of the top 6 teams, I was actually thinking there was going to be a really good encounter there. So I was very disappointed with the level that you guys put in because I just love a derby and I just think it just didn't live up. It felt quite easy. Not easy to the point, where we rolled you guys over. I don't think that was the case. I think it was just the case of your boys just didn't turn up mentally. However, saying that, and even though I believed we performed better, the score should have finished 1-1. And I think we all know why it should have finished 1-1 with that incident with the corner, which led to, Solanke getting the own goal. So in my opinion, I think the referee made the wrong decision. We've seen those unfortunately given before. It's happened to us in the past as well. But I just think you guys were hard done by with that one decision. So it could have been a point earned rather than 2 points dropped, 3 points to us. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I look at it obviously from a Spurs perspective, and it's another big game that we failed to turn up in. It's a performance that we've sort of seen before. I thought first half we were all over the place. Loads of people trying to, saying to me afterwards about Jed Spence. And I was like, we was all over the place for 45 minutes minimum. I think second half he did better, but first half he didn't know what day of the week it was, bless him. But I think the moment and the space that Spurs are in, I'm not using injuries as an excuse, but I think if you take out so many key players from any other side, they're going to notice it. And I think the lads that are giving what they can are running on fumes. And I think the Arsenal game and even Everton on Sunday, I think, were byproducts of the lads just running out of steam and not being able to give their maximum, which, isn't what us fans want to see. It's not, especially when it comes to a derby game. You want to see, everybody minimum just kind of working hard and fighting for the badge, fighting for the shirt as a minimum. But yeah, I think second half from a Spurs point of view was just absolutely pointless. Like, you could have ended the game at half time and would have all been done. And yeah, fine, see you later. Because second half we didn't do anything. I felt for Kinski. I think he's at fault for the second goal because I think he should save it.
Yeah.
But I know there was a couple of times where the balls are getting played back to him, and I mean, you saw his back heel, but that's the the byproduct of a really bad pass into him, so he's having to just deal with it like as he sees fit. But I think as a goalkeeper, he's really impressed me. And I'm really happy with him coming in. I think he's done fairly well given what surround him and the circumstances he's being thrown into. I think in any normal circumstances he's getting drip fed in as opposed to just getting chucked in at the deep end. But I think from a Spurs point of view now, it's get Ange some help. We saw on Sunday against Everton, we had 11 and a half, because I don't think Richarlison was fully fit, players available. I know the performance against Everton was abysmal, and you can't with this current Everton team, you can't make them look as good as we did, because they are terrible. And Everton fans will probably back me up on that as well. So there is that part of, okay, we're in a bad situation, but at the same time, the players need to be doing and showing a little bit more, I think. And I think the last two Premier League games in particular have highlighted a hell of a lot. We're day 22 in the transfer window. We've signed a goalkeeper, no outfielders coming in. Our main target's going elsewhere. So usually it's like, well, where's your other targets, or where's your other players that you've looked at and earmarked as potential signings? Like what is the football club are we doing at the moment? I think that's where the frustration is coming from Spurs fans at the moment.
Yeah.
But now at the weekend, you boys did drop some points against Aston Villa, who seem to be a little bit of a bogey side. Emery seems to have got the Arsenal number pretty much, marked, and knows how to get the job done. What did you make of the game on Saturday?
Yeah, I'd like to point out that mostly bogey teams tend to be when you travel to their ground, but it seems like Villa come to our ground and mess us up every single chance they get. And I think Unai is relishing. I think he just smells the dressing room as like, okay, good evening, it's time, or something like that. He just goes off, and I think I want to give credit to Villa for the comeback that they made. But I also want to point out the fact that, we didn't kill off our chances. And also it just seemed quite lackluster after 2-0. Once we got that second goal, I felt like we put our foot off the brakes and we didn't go, for that third goal to essentially kill them off. To think that we need to kill Villa off at 3-0 is actually, I think, underlying problems that Arteta, I don't think, has quite figured out yet. I feel like this season compared to last, because I think the first season when we had the title charge, I don't think many people expected it. I think Arteta was tinkering and figuring out what could be his side. And I think once he finished that season and we lost to City, the next season where we lost by 2 points was the season where he had his squad, he had his players. And I think it was since he's been in charge, probably the one season where you could look at a starting 11 and actually see a consistent starting 11 that you could identify. This season, again, I don't want to blame injuries. I just think there's been a couple of signings that he's brought in. And I think he's tried to tinker a bit, especially in defense. And I don't think it's worked out. I think we are really missing, a lot of people haven't pointed this out, but Ben White, in my opinion, I think we have missed him simply because of the connection that he has with Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard on that right-hand side. I think it's crazy for me to say this, but we have not replaced Granit Xhaka. How crazy is that to say that?
I don't get what he does now, so I don't get what he does.
No. In that Arteta squad, he brought something on that left centre mid position as an 8. And even though he wasn't the most agile, he was definitely a box-to-box. And I think Mourinho has been decided to try and replace like for like, but I just don't think it's panned out, even though he's come up with some crucial goals and stuff against some teams. But yeah, Villa just had our number. I want to give credit to them because when it's 2-0 up, you come to the Emirates, most teams in the last 2.5 seasons kind of give up at that point, but Villa still went for it. And I think credit to them that they got the equaliser. Trossard in that last minute, as much as you want to say that he should have scored that goal or should have put away that chance, we could have killed them off earlier. So, and Villa could have gone on and won it as well. So you just never know at that point. Yeah, it was just I can't lie, bro. It was very like nightmares seeing Ollie Watkins score again after that chip. I just can't remember. I remember last season very vividly, and the text that you sent me and stuff. But look, at this point, because I want to speak after obviously we talk about you guys. I mean, I just feel like the Premier League season in general. Like, that's my thoughts on the game, but I have something to say about the Premier League season. But that's my thoughts on the game. Obviously, you've asked me about the game, so
Yeah.
I feel like that's my thoughts on the game, and I just feel like Villa, credit to them, they got a fair result.
Yeah, no, I think I didn't get to see too much of the game, I have to say. But finding out that the Havertz goal got ruled out, I did have a nice little cheer, I have to admit, because it's quite nice seeing Arsenal, obviously, from a Spurs perspective, nice seeing Arsenal drop some points and things like that and stuff as well. But yeah, I think you're right in terms of how Emery seems to kind of sense something when he's going to the Emirates in particular. Like, he knows how to silence the crowd at pivotal moments. And I think, when I caught the highlights of the game, that was evident, I would say. I mean, obviously losing a Nana fairly early on didn't help. The way they were trying to play, the way they were trying to do things didn't help the cause. But I think Villa kind of dealt with that really well. Again, from what I saw, and I think some good finishes, I think, all round pretty much from that particular game. So yeah, I think the less said about Sunday for Spurs, the better, because as I mentioned, we made Everton look good. Made Calvert-Lewin look like prime R9 again.
Yeah.
He hasn't scored in 16 games, and I think every Spurs fan was going, Dr. Tottenham will see you now. Like, it's Dr. Tottenham. So I think our next 3 games could be a case of Dr. Tottenham. Obviously, Everton, bad run of form. Calvert-Lewin can't score. Scores, Everton pick up a win. Tomorrow night, Hoffenheim having an awful season. Dr. Tottenham's likely to turn up. Leicester, I think it's 6-7 defeats in their last 8-9 games or whatever. And I think the crowd are turning at Leicester as well. Another case for Dr. Tottenham to turn up. And we could be sitting here with Spurs with 13 league defeats this time next week, which is not good enough by anybody's standard, especially if you want to try and be the sort of club that Tottenham perceive that they want to be. Whether they actually want to be it or not is a lot. I think a lot of questions are being asked, especially at the moment, as I mentioned before, into January, and your squad is really thin.
Yeah,
not getting helped. And I wouldn't say it's a case of him getting backed. It's just a case of him getting helped in terms of different departments. Like, from the summer, we needed a left-sided defender. We still need a left-sided defender. We needed a number 6. We still need a number 6. We needed a forward. We still need a forward. So, and my mum's asking, how can we fix it? I think there's more qualified people somewhere that are getting paid very well, that should be fixing it, and that are not fixing it. It's a case of being proactive and not reactive. And yeah, I think that, like I say, the less said about Sunday, the better. I think the positives, though, was Mikey Moore, who was probably our best player when he come on. But we're asking a kid at 17 to get us back into a game and save us. Bonkers. Bonkers. Like, bonkers. Out of the so-called Big Six, you don't see any other Big Six team going, right, yeah, we'll chuck a 17-year-old. He's going to be the one. He's the one that's going to get us out of this. No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So, I'm at my wit's end at the moment with Tottenham. Will it stop me going at the weekend? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. But Nels, you said you wanted to mention some stuff with the Premier League, so I'll let you take it away.
I've just been having some thought, because what's crazy is that City have this hard run of games coming up, right? I think they're facing Chelsea, the likes of, Arsenal. Like, they've got tough games.
They've got us to play as well,
and they've got you guys. I just feel like there's a tough fixture, but that game against Ipswich felt like it was a trial run, because Kevin De Bruyne was fit, Phil Foden seems to be back, and Erling Haaland, or Jeremy Doku, and with a couple of new signings that they've made. We always talk about this second half of the season that City always seem to do. Every year they've done a second half of the season, and they're still within the top 4. And what scares me is Liverpool, we thought at this point, in my opinion, should have run away. I think they should have a bigger lead on Arsenal than they do have right now. 6 points, I think, is a bit, kind. I think they should have a bigger lead. Why do I get the sense that these citizens up there in Manchester will go on another crazy run, and by the end of the season, we're talking about the fact that they're still within contention to win the title? I mean, in my opinion, I think overall as well, I just like to point out that that's number one. That's my first point. Like, these guys could go on another run. Pep could win the whole thing again. It'd probably be his greatest Premier League win or just in his managerial career ever. Secondly, I just feel like this Premier League season overall has been poor. I don't know about you, but I think in general, the overall season has been poor. And I don't know if that's a case of the fact that we're seeing Nottingham Forest compete for Champions League football with it being poor. I just feel like the top 6 sides haven't turned up. Obviously, Chelsea have gone through a bad run of form since Christmas. And in my opinion, I just feel like that the Premier League season in terms of, games as a neutral to kind of enjoy just hasn't lived up to, what we've had in previous seasons. I think teams have suffered from some injuries like yourselves and other teams, and we just haven't seen the best of certain players. The only pro I would give is the fact that teams like Nottingham Forest are getting better, and their squad depth in the teams that you would expect to finish in the lower positions are actually getting better in terms of squad depth, which is allowing them to compete for these places that we didn't think that they would compete 2 bloody seasons ago. But overall, I just feel like the quality of football compared to previous seasons, I don't think has been the best. But I think you have to give credit to those teams that are lower in the table. I think, last season, didn't we have Aston Villa now, going to Champions League places? The year before that was Newcastle. This season could be a Nottingham Forest. I just feel like you're getting a new thing each year, which is credit to those teams who have made the right investments to, be in these positions. But that is my hot take right now, because I just feel like those boys in blue in Manchester could pull off another remontada. But then I also think quality has been poor overall. But another pro I'd like to point out is that, the lower teams in position, they're getting better. So what do you think about what my hot takes?
The City one, I don't think many would be shocked if they went and done it.
Yeah.
Because it's City. And this is another thing that's frustrating me. City went through their spell where they were awful, right? They recognize they're in a bad run. What do? They help the manager. So they've got him 3 players. They got him 2 new centre halves and a forward, because they reckon, okay, maybe they didn't replace Alvarez. I think that transfer was probably one that was a bit of a shock, because I don't think they really anticipated losing him. But getting in the 2 centre halves that they did, it's like, right, okay, we've recognised that they might need a bit of a freshen up. Let's do it in stages, etc., etc. But then Spurs are looking at this window going, it's a really difficult window. But then you're seeing the likes of Ipswich that are spending. Brentford are getting Coyote in by the looks of it from Fiorentina, who's going to be an unbelievably good signing. My Football Manager players out there know about Michael Coyote. And I think the rest of the league and potentially the world is going to know about Michael Coyote if he ends up at Brentford. I think, again, it's just a sign of a club backing or helping, should I say, not necessarily backing, but helping the manager in a time of need.
Yeah.
And they've recognized, okay, this isn't where we want to be. This isn't our standard. How do we change it? How do we get better? And how do we, look to improve and get better? We help the person that needs it the most. So I think that's my view on the City situation there. I don't think they're going to win the league personally, but like I say, it wouldn't shock me if they did.
Yeah.
I think if they obviously when they come to us, they're going to lose, because they always do. We are literally City's bogey team. It feels like we only turn up twice a year, and it's City at home and City away at the minute.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of the fact that the quality is poor, I think usually you get a bit of a dip in a season after a Euros or a World Cup, and I think this is it. You look at the volume of games, and again, my mum's mentioned here, obviously Forest being up there, haven't played as many games. They're obviously not in Europe.
Good point.
So they're able to keep players fresh. They've not had the injuries. as well. And I also think we're seeing a lot more injuries because games are lasting longer. So conditioning wise, players aren't not getting conditioned to play, say, 90, 95 minutes anymore. They're getting conditioned to play 100, 110 minutes now. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're a human being that's having to play at the top level, you know, week in, week out consistently, physically and mentally, that is a massive difference. And then you're having to do that, say, for some of the clubs in Europe, 2-3 times a week.
Yeah.
It's going to take its toll. And I think that's why we're seeing a multitude of injuries across the league. And I think it's probably a record high, I would argue, in terms of the injuries over the last couple of seasons. I think there's been probably more injuries in the last couple of years than there probably ever has been.
Yeah.
So I think it's the scheduling, as people know, far too many games, and the amount of time actually that the games are going on, I think, is a big one. So yeah, that for me doesn't help the players. They want to play, of course they do, but there has to be a limit, and they have to. We have to remember that they are human; they are not robots. So they can't always compete at the top level every time.
Yeah.
And I think that's potentially why the quality isn't as where it usually is. But you know, having said that, fair play to Forest. Again, they've gone out and you would argue backed Nuno, and given him some players he wants. He finally got Milenkovic. He was a centre half he wanted at Tottenham when he was there. Didn't get him, and now he's finally got him. It looks like Mourinho is going to finally get Milan Skriniar on loan from PSG, centre half he wanted at Tottenham. You see where I'm going with this, right?
I see where you're going. Yeah, I do.
Finally got Wijnaldum at PSG. You know, a player that he wanted at Tottenham.
Tottenham, yeah, I see it.
But I think that's kind of where we're at in terms of the Premier League. But having said that, Nels, there is one team I would argue in the Premier League that are trying to outdo Tottenham in terms of being the worst out of the big boys, and that is Man United. What did you make of Amorim's comments at the weekend saying that this is possibly the worst Man United team?
That's crazy. We've never heard that ever in the history of Manchester United Football Club. This club has been here for a long time and seen many generations. And for this man to come in and say this at this point of, the club's history, it's a big one. And I don't think a lot of United fans are going to complain about the fact that they're not a good team. And I think it is a reflection, considering the fact that, everyone thought Ruben would come in and probably make a good start. I think he's had more losses than the two previous managers from this season, Ruud and Erik ten Hag. That's crazy. So that's a short time, and he's basically lost more games than the previous two that they got rid of. We had that discussion with Erik ten Hag in a sense of, we just feel like, how could you go from managing a team like Ajax with all those superstars that you molded and have a philosophy that we loved and enjoyed because it was beautiful football, to then coming to a club like United, trying to bring something like that, and it not being backed, like you mentioned, being helped, by, the board not helping the manager. And I just think once United get rid of whoever's in charge right now at the top in the boards, I just think they'll see changes. And right now, they're just there isn't much. And I think recruitment isn't pinpoint to what I think the manager needs and wants. And I'm worried for Ruben that that's going to happen to him in this summer window, but we'll have to wait and see. I think it's a crazy comment, though. It's a crazy comment to come out with, but I do think it might have stirred up a few things, in the offices at Man United. And I hope so, for their sake, to get back to the level that, they once were under Sir Alex Ferguson. It's crazy, bro. I just didn't think it would ever happen. But right now, they are papering over a lot of cracks. The game I watched in particular, I was at a bar and watching the game against Southampton. And the game against Southampton really opened my eyes, because Southampton, in my opinion, were hard done by, in the sense of they had so many chances, didn't kill them off. And you're thinking these guys are opening and carving up United as a team at the bottom of the table, doing this to United. And I think it speaks volumes to, United and what level they're currently playing at. I don't think they're playing at the level that Ruben wants them to play at. But also, I think some of the players have given up. You've got Rashford, who's likely going to leave in the summer. You're talking players that have already given up, I think on their careers, in my opinion. And the Brighton game was only a reflection of the Southampton game. Southampton didn't take their chances. Brighton did. And United are currently open right now. I think most teams can, tear them to shreds. And I think they're doing a better job at actually, being crap than you guys. I just feel like, yeah, it's really a tough one. What do you make of his comments? Because, he's come in and, you think that he's going to do well, and you want to see it. You from a coaching perspective, you want to see coaches like that do well, but it just seems like it's just not worked out. And yeah, what's your take so far?
Think with Amorim, it feels like he's got a free pass at minimum till the end of the season.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels like, okay, I can get this. If I get this off my chest early and now and out the problems and issues that I feel I'm facing, then it's a case of, well, if we do lose or perform badly, it's one of them, don't be surprised by it because of X, Y, and Z. He's kind of saying it's not his team. These aren't his players. So he's trying to effectively get the best out of another manager's or few managers' players. Having said that, when I have watched United, they blow so hot and cold. Like you get a game and a performance like against Liverpool, where to a man they were excellent.
Yeah.
But from a United point of view, you shouldn't need any extra motivation for that game anyway, because it's one of their biggest rivals.
Yeah.
I think when they played in the Cup quarterfinal against Tottenham, I thought actually United did fairly well. What I liked was how, and I think this will be a huge success for Amorim going forwards. He just needs to tweak the players, I think, that are in these positions. But they stretch the pitch really well and they make the pitch really wide. So there's always an out ball, and the out ball is always the opposing wing back. I think if he gets an actual left-footed left wing back in, because I think Shaw's unreliable and he clearly doesn't rate Malacia, who has had a big injury and is trying to kind of feel his way back in, but I don't think he feels him at the moment. He's more of a traditional left back as opposed to a wing back. So I think if he gets an actual left wing back in or somebody in that position, I think United will see a big difference, because there's times where the ball gets switched out to the left wing back and it's like, right, just touch and deliver. But unfortunately for Diogo Dalot, he's right-footed. So he's having to check back in a lot on his right foot. But having said that, the way they stretch the pitch, really good. The way they can find Bruno in half spaces is really good as well. Sort of inside channel, in and around the 18-yard box, really good. I don't think Amorim's actually too many players away. I think he needs a bit more cover in central midfield, 100%. Like I say, left wing back and a number 9. I think if United target those in the summer and they get them right, they could be onto something, because I think the way that they are setting up at the minute under Amorim isn't too bad. And I do see hope for United, because I see more of a plan, a structure and an idea under Amorim than I did under Eric Ten Hag, 100%.
Okay.
It was kind of like with Ten Hag, like, right, lads, go play. We've worked on this in training all week, like, off you go. And it felt like there was 11 strangers out there for United, but it feels like they're a bit more together under Amorim. Okay. I like him. I think he speaks really, really well, considering some of the questioning he gets. So I think, I'm not going to say United are going to be back, because I'm not a United fan. I don't need to say that. But I see some good signs of progress with United. It's just going to take a little bit of time for them, I think. And then I think we'll see the fruits of the labour from Amorim for sure.
I mean, hopefully we see that. I feel like there's a nature, we know the nature of the Premier League now when it comes to, management, and when you're hiring people, it just seems quite cutthroat. And if you look, I think in the last couple of seasons, the teams that have actually done okay and been stable as a result of keeping their managers, City's a prime example. Before Jurgen Klopp left, he was one. You can make the argument Eddie Howe at Newcastle. even him at Bournemouth as well, stability. And then I could even make the small argument of Arteta, being there for now 5 years and it being stability. I just feel like, which is why I get annoyed at hearing your fans get on at Ange, because I just feel like they're failing to see what he's trying to build. And
I think just on Anne, sorry, Nels, but
go on.
I understand where you're coming from, like 100%. And
Yeah.
I want Ange to succeed at Tottenham. I don't want us to go through another manager, because it's only been there 18 months and it's like we're going through this 18-month cycle. But at the same time, if I go back to Sunday, I've never seen a team play a back three and look as open as Tottenham were on Sunday. It would, like, you could hold Wireless Festival, big man, right? In the spaces between the defence. You could hold Glastonbury. All the big festivals were chilling in between our 3 centre backs and the space between our goalkeeper as well. It was frightening. It was absolutely frightening. And I'm there going, like, we can't be this bad, not against Everton.
Yeah.
Like Everton haven't scored 3 goals in a game like
since
forever.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Never mind, and they do it in 45 minutes against Tottenham. Like, I get the fact that he's got key players out. I completely understand that, but at the same time, you have to coach what you have personnel wise, and you have to make sure that you get a tune out of what you have got at the same time. Like I say, I understand and appreciate that we have key players out. But the worst thing for Ange at the weekend is the fact that Bournemouth have 11 players out, have a way of playing, have a playing style, and get a result at Newcastle, who are absolutely flying. I mean, there's a lesson for kids, like, don't back the early kickoff. Of course there is. But, that was another thing as well, I think, where people are going, well, hold on a minute. We've got this amount of injuries. Bournemouth have got a similar amount of injuries to us, and they're not perceived as one of the big boys yet. How can they get a result and we can't?
Yeah,
that was another thing. Point. I think that I think fans are questioning with Ange, but he's not solely to blame, but I think he's part to blame for where we are.
No, I hear that. I appreciate that opinion, just because I just feel like what the teams that have had a lot of stability have shown the most progress. So, which comes back to Amram. I mean, who knows what they'll do? Hopefully, this time next season he won't have to make that comment again. But I like also his forwardness. Like, he is quite blank, and I think they might need that moving forward. But
absolutely right. Now, should we talk about our favourite subject?
FPL. Yes, FPL. Let's do it.
Obviously, we won't be able to get on screen our teams, but talk me through your game week 22. What happened?
Oh, game week 22 was okay. 65 points. 65 points, better than the average, means I'm still on top of my 9 different leagues, which is very nice to know, including, I believe, Kofa, which is normally our sponsor here for Holly's Hotspurs.
All right. Yeah.
But I had Henderson in goal, got me a clean sheet. You mentioned on the weekend it was a clean sheet brigade. I can't even say the word brigade. So Trent and Anthony Robinson, who I think is an fantasy gem this season, Anthony Robinson for Fulham. Please go out there and get him, guys. Got a clean sheet. Timber didn't do so well. Obviously, the game against Bournemouth was a shock to many, the early kickoff. So I had Isak and Gordon, and it didn't work out for me. Cole Palmer didn't work out. Anthony Elanga didn't work out for me, even though Forest had a great game. I made the decision to captain Mo Salah. Didn't do too well. Only got me 6 points. However, the 2 men that saved me, Mr. Christopher Wood is back again with his 12-pointer against. I can't even remember. It was a great performance, nonetheless, against Southampton. That's it. And I had boom, Mateta in the room. He is that guy. I love. He's on a run of form right now. And I think the form that we saw towards the back end of last season, he's proven it. And I think Palace right now are the team to target because they have a kind of run of fixtures, whether it's Munoz at the back whether it's Ismail Issa, in my opinion, or the man who's come back, Eberechi Eze, who hopefully can pick up form. And then you got Mateta. Those are the 4 key players I think you should look out for Palace. And they have a kind run of fixtures. Forest as well. But I'm very happy. 65 points. When I finished, I think the Saturday, I had about 49, like before, Forest played. And I think a lot of people captained Cole Palmer thinking he'd do well against Wolves, which didn't end up going down too well. So Wes, tell me your team. How much did you get, and what was your squad like for the week?
Czechoslovakia got 71 points.
Yeah. Okay.
So I had Super Burnt Leno in goal.
Yeah.
Got me 7 points, although I had Alisson on my bench, and he picked up 9 points. I'm a little bit gutted there.
Ooh, okay.
But I think Alisson got extra points for the amount of saves, and I'm like,
yeah.
But Leno's arguably bagged the better performance type thing.
Yeah.
I'm the same as you. Had Anthony Robinson in 8 points. I've put Trent in. He got me 11. Obviously, assist for Darwin. Nunez was a big one. Joachim Anderson at the back.
That's a
I think
good
Fulham
guy.
are keeping up, are doing all right with clean sheets. So
yeah,
went with that. I did also have William Saliba, but he was injured. So then it goes to the next player on my bench, and that was Milos Kerkez on the bench. He has had a phenomenal season, and I was a bit like, oh no, he's on the bench. Yeah. And then I found out that Saliba wasn't playing, so then I got a little bit happy because I was like, oh, he's the next player on my bench. I'm really happy about that because he scored and got an assist for Bournemouth at the weekend. I was the same as you, had Salah as captain, picked up 6 points. I had Decky in my midfield, scored. Yeah. Spurs were terrible, as we discussed already. Decky picked up 9, Salah with 6. Put Morgan Rogers back in because he started to hit a little bit of form. Yeah. Typically, drops an absolute shocker. I've put in Amad Diallo over the last couple of weeks, given his level of form, but obviously United got sent to by Brighton. Isak was my vice captain, wasn't the day for him. Super Chris Woods up top, 12 points. He is smashing it at the moment. I actually took Cole Palmer out of my team.
I noticed
because I heard from Enzo Maresca that he hadn't trained on the Friday.
Yeah,
and there was a doubt, so I was like, right, let me take him out then, just in case. Also had Liam Delap, who I've got in. He's having a really good season, but he's on the bench. So yeah, I'm fairly happy. 71 points. We are starting to climb. So I'm up to 7th now.
I was about to say, people need to give credit to Wes from where he started in the season, bottom of the table. He has crept up to 7th place. Wes, I can't lie.
In the Kofa League, and then in the Holly Hotspurs league, I'm now up to 16th. Bearing in mind, I was at the bottom of the pile. When Nelson, you are in the top 3.
I am
in the Holly Hotspurs FPL league, but I'm on the rise. I've worked out how to play this game now.
Can I just point out?
If only I didn't have a shocking start. Who knows where I could be?
I agree. It's your start that let you down. I like to point out that whoever is Nothing Else Matters in Holly's Hotspurs, Lauren Dawkins, I'm sorry, I have to call you out. You are an actual baller on FPL. And I just feel like we go back and forth when it comes to our position. So I just want to give her a shout out because I think she's a wonderful FPL player, and I just can't seem to crack. Like this week, I'm above her. The next week, I don't doubt that she might be above me. Not in that way, pause. But like in the sense that I think she's a great fantasy player. So I just want to point out that at the top, I think it's going to get very juicy. I think Mark is on top, Richard second, me third, Craig 4th, and Lauren 5th. I think we're the top 5 right now, and I think it's going to be a very juicy. That assistant manager is going to come in handy. We don't know how it's going to be used, but I think that chip people need to watch out for, and we'll probably speak about it later on as the season gets going. But yeah, FPL, love it.
Absolutely. But yeah, Nelson, just before we wrap up as well, obviously, another one of our favourite topics, WSL was back after the winter break, and some really good results for North London in particular, obviously. Spurs beating Leicester, much needed 3 points to try and get Spurs up the table, and you guys winning 5-0, I believe, against, was it Crystal Palace?
Correct.
As well. So And I think with some of the transfers that are happening as well, WSL wise, at the moment, I think Chelsea are looking to smash the transfer record for an American defender. How are you starting to see the WSL forming as we hit the second part of the season?
Mate, I'm excited. I'm looking at some of these transfers because I follow the WSL Fantasy up too, and some of these transfers are really good transfers. I think Palace have made some good signings. I think City have made some good signings. I know you guys just bought a keeper, I believe. I might be wrong, as well. And I just think this is really, for a January transfer window, I think this is great for the WSL to see these players move about, to see the attraction that we're getting. I think it's great. And I think Chelsea making that huge signing might set our league on fire in a sense that, okay, well, if this is the money that is in this league and the money that's been pumping in, I think that we've been seeing over the last few years, I think it will hopefully attract more top players. And I think hopefully that will also affect, because I saw a recent interview, I might send it across, but I saw a recent interview by a Birmingham City player. She's quite viral on TikTok. And she had stated that she gets good money, being the fact that she does all TikTok, also Birmingham City are all right, but the money still isn't there in the Championship. So you're hoping that, it filters down from the WSL if we get moves like this that cost £1 million, pounds to come through. And I think it's only going to be good for us as, viewers. So I'm glad it's back. Good win on the weekend. I'd like to point out that the hottest manager right now in world football is none other than Renee Slagers. She is
not Jonas.
Not Jonas. Get him out. Get him out. The Renaissance is here. That is what I'm saying right now. But Wes, it's really good to see this happen in WSL, and I just think there's going to be moments where we're going to have more in-depth chats about this, just because it's always on the up. So yeah, I'm very happy. I'm very happy with the WSL, and it's just good for it to be back. Also, shout out to Ella Toone, who bagged a hat trick in the derby. I know people have there's been haters. People forget that she's human and she lost her dad, and I think that's obviously affected her first half of the season. But to her, she was out, I think, towards the winter break, but now she's come back, and to hit a hat trick on the derby, no better way to shut the haters up. So shout out Ella.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think she's obviously had that tragedy with the passing of her dad and the injury. It must have obviously been a lot on her, like, mentally, to try and deal with, like, at least, I mean, if her dad had passed away still, but she was able to play, I think that would have obviously, her levels may not be up there, but at least it's something to kind of take her mind off of that tragedy, if that makes sense. So the fact that she's had to battle the injury on top of that as well, I think it's obviously been a real difficult time for her. But I think a player of Toone's quality shining is not only a good thing for Man United, but also for Serena and the Lionesses. As well as we move into the Euros again this summer. So fingers crossed that the Lionesses can retain the crown and bring football back home, because the men aren't doing it at the moment. But Nels, that kind of wraps us up for tonight. Been great to be back chatting football. But where can everybody find you doing your thing?
Thank you for having me again, guys. It's really good to be back, and you guys can find me on Instagram at nnatumba25. So at n, and then my surname, as you can see, Natumba25 on Instagram.
Lovely. And where can everybody find me? Well, you should know by now, Twitter's at Wezo10, unofficial Moussa Dembele fan account, tweeting things about the best Belgian usually that grace the Premier League. So yeah, that's where you can find me on Twitter. Instagram's at Wezo32, usually at a Spurs game. I will be there on Sunday, unfortunately. So if I'll be in the South Stand, so if anybody does recognise me from any other bits and pieces that I do, please come and say hello. But more importantly, make sure you follow Holly on all the socials. Make sure you subscribe into the channel, liking the video, all of the good stuff. Until next time, we say a big come on you Spurs.